Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite here, and I wanted to do this video. It's been a while since I did something like this, and I'm still gonna do that one video about the Flash for one of my viewers that asked me. I will answer that question. I want to sit down and try to digest that, but this has been on my mind. I saw that one of the individuals I subscribe with that's friends with Subjective Reviews, he did a video on who's the better Batman. It showed up on mine, and I listened to his his opinion about it, and I feel like that because I know a lot about Batman. I've been reading Batman comics since 1989, and I've been a fan of Batman since 1986 basically, and I watched all the old Adam Wests. I wasn't able to watch the old serials, but I was able to get to understand Batman a little bit more, and over the years I've grown to love Batman. I'm starting to enjoy Superman a little bit more. I love Henry Cavill's version, but I'm still a huge Batman fan, and I understand how people feel about Batman being depicted as he's always this guy that understands everything and does everything. I don't want that. I want the criminal a detective Batman. That's the Batman that I grew up reading, and I love that version of Batman. But I do like the Batman that can just go into a room and destroy everybody in a room and walk away with, with a couple of scratches. So it's like, wow, this guy is very skilled. He understands the room. He understands what to take down, and he utilizes the fear that his presence as a way of getting into people's heads. So, here's the thing, and I broke mine down a little bit more than his, and mine's going to be a little bit longer than his. I'm not saying that his list is crap, and he's judging between Christian Bale and Ben Affleck, and I'm doing the same thing because those are the two Batmans that we have at this present point in time. I'm not going to do a Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney versus Bale with Affleck and Bale. I'm not even going to add Kevin Conroy into the mix. I mean, that's just too many Batmen. Even Jason O'Hara. I'm not going to add him in there. That's kind of redundant, and it gets down to a whole plethora of things because there's things you can get away with in animation that you can't really get away with in live action. So now, mine are broke down a little bit differently, but it's going to probably feel like his, and I'm not stepping on his toes. I actually liked how he did his. His was straight down to the point. Mine's going to get straight down to the point, and I will give you who I think is who I like out of the Batman. Now, I watched the Christian Bale's versions. I have all three of the movies. My favorite is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is my favorite comic book movie. But Batman v Superman is superior versus that movie. I love that movie over The Dark Knight. But out of any comic book movie, if BVS never existed, Dark Knight is my favorite comic book movie of all time. I love Heath Ledger's version of the Joker. That is Joker. That is Joker. I don't care what anybody says. People can try to argue with me all day. That's the Joker. That is how Joker acts. That is his mindset. He's all about Batman getting him out of the way and becoming king of Gotham. That's his whole objective. And then it became more about the whole thing with Batman. Now, there's a lot of history, and I can tell you right now, Hawk, he is a huge Joker fan. He has the guy tattooed on him. He loves the Joker. And anybody who comes in and screws up the Joker, he will hate this person for the rest of existence. And he likes Jared Leto, but the man messed up Joker. And he is pissed at that dude for that crap that they pulled off. So that tells you something how much he loves the Joker. Batman's the same thing with me. You screw up on one aspect of Batman, I am not gonna like it. And I understand people are saying, hey, give it a chance. I gave them a lot of chances with Batman, and after Val Kilmer, I hated Val Kilmer's version of Batman. That was not Batman. And George Clooney made my head hurt. He made my head hurt. I felt like my heart just got ripped out of my chest and thrown to the ground and stepped on. I have wanted to see Batman movies for a long time, and I love Batman. Do not screw up Batman. Please, it is not that hard of a guy to get wrong. You cannot screw up on Batman. It is a simple psychological thing you could do with Batman. You don't have to make it complicated. You can make it very simplistic. We as an audience and fans understand Batman. He's a crazy dude that sits in a suit and beats up criminals at nights. Okay? It's not that complicated. So, now I broke mine down into the suits, fighting style, gadgets, the voice, the portrayal, the history, and the villains. Now they're all hitting the subcategories. Now, now, again, I agree with him. Let's give a very much appreciation to Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan for giving us this great portrayal, a pretty damn good portrayal of Batman. I do have problems with it, and I will explain it in my explanations about why I think Affleck got it better than Bale, and certain things that Bale did better than Affleck, especially with the way Chris Nolan did versus what Zack Snyder was doing. However, we should also realize that Chris Nolan did a whole trilogy while Zack Snyder was slowly trying to get Batman to where he is, where he used to be, comparative to where he was at the moment we met him. So that was the whole point. He was trying to get Batman out of the muck, back to becoming the prominent hero he used to be, versus this was the origin story, the rise, the fall, and the rebirth of Batman. That's kind of how they were. That's how what I was getting from the Christian Bale version. The one thing I did not like about his version of Batman was he wasn't very worldly, and that was the thing about Batman that we all know. He traveled the world to understand what he had to do to become a fearsome creature of the night against the criminals in his city. It wasn't trying to combat like the Joker or Penguin or Two-Face or Poison Ivy, not of his main rogues. It was just to take care of the criminal element in his city. And when the Joker and all of them started to prop up, his training is what guided him into, okay, now he has to become this thing to combat against this new element. So that's how I interpreted what they were doing with Batman. And that's why I felt like, what the heck were they doing? Again, it's grounded, but the thing is that the story made sense, and you as an audience should wait a minute, that's not what Batman would do. We should have questioned what the heck he was doing throughout all three of the movies, because Bale's whole pretense that we got from Batman Begins was he was supposed to, his whole mindset was against the the organized crime. He was not dealing with psychopaths and murderers and rapists. He was just dealing with the mob. He wasn't trying to figure out the mind of a psychopathic killer like the Joker. He wasn't considering something like that. He never even considered anything like that was going to show up in his city. So that's why I felt that the whole story, when Joker showed up, I was like, this is not right. Batman would never do something like that. And that's why people combat it with, well, this is more grounded. I say, grounded or not, he should have been more like, hey, wait a minute, we got to take care of that new element. That new element is new. We already knew what was going on with this. Let's take care of this new element. But he never went after it at first until everything got turned to pot. And then it was just like, wow, now everything's falling around him. His house of cards is starting to get blown in, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Well, Affleck was more in the fact of his house of cards have already been destroyed, burnt, and pissed on. And he's sick of it. And that's where we got him at. And that's where I felt that the story was perfect for him. We wanted to see a broken Batman. We already knew, having a Batman that's already pre-made, that he's this mysterious fellow. We already knew that's already written. We already know that. That's the thing. If we as an audience can go beat for beat in the story and go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Then it's boring for other people who want a challenging story. That's why seeing Batman as a broken individual, and he doesn't consider criminals and people, he considers criminals weeds. He never sees them as the people that are just in hard luck like he was. He was in hard luck, and he basically decided to take matters in his own hands. And that's what they did. They took the matters in their own hands and they went down a dark path. And Batman's supposed to be an act of redemption. That was the whole point of Batman's story in every iteration, except a few. So that's why I felt that that everyone did not understand why Zack Snyder went with the broken down older Batman, because it made sense to the world it's in. It's in the muck. It's now seeing Superman. And Batman has already had years of experience. He's fought against all these criminals. And now he's looking at the world as it's cynical. It's crap. These criminals are going to be there consistently. And his war on crime was it really worth it? Was it really worth the destruction of Gotham City? And that's why a lot of us were like, wow. And we were all amazed on how the fight scenes were cool. What Batman was doing was very cool. But we're not saying that it was okay for him to do what he was doing. We were all saying we understood this is not Batman. This is not Batman. And that was the whole point of the whole story leading up to the Martha scene, the quote unquote infamous Martha scene. No one understood it because they were so angry over the fact that Batman was killing and he's breaking his number one rule. No one understands where that rule came from. No one can tell you where that rule came from. They said it's always been in comics. No, it hasn't. I could tell you it's never always been in comics. It has never been in comics. Hell, even in the mid 80s, he killed KG Beast. He left him to die. He killed a lot of freaking his villains. At one point, he basically left the Joker to die. He said, no, he's good. Bye. And left him. He could have saved him. He could have risked himself and saved the Joker. There were tons of times he did stuff that really kind of pushed the envelope that he was not right. So don't also there were times where Hugo Strange died. He got impaled and Batman saw it and was like, hey, well, that's just them apples, and walked away. So don't say that Batman has never killed. He has killed. He just left people to die. Say whatever. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And don't sit there and say that. If you've not read a Batman comic, especially the older comics, then you can't say that. You can't also utilize the fact that, well, we're not talking about that Batman. We're talking about this Batman. Dude, it's Batman. If you say he's always been that way, it's like, then we're going to go back to all of his history, even back to the golden age of comics. He killed. He shot people. He had a gun. And that's why Zack Snyder utilized it, because it was a shock to the system to a lot of comic book readers who has never read older comics. Zack Snyder is in his 50s, and he's read comics his whole life. That means he's read the golden age of comics. He knows. He understands. But you got people in their 30s and 40s in there saying, "Oh, he never killed anybody." Really? Then how long have you read comics? I read comics since I was this age. Okay, then you should know he's killed people. If you see someone bleeding on the ground and you just look at him and go, and walk away, you're an accomplice. Under the eyes of the law, you're not truly an accomplice, but you are morally accomplice to this person dying. Batman did that numerous times. He put the risk of the city versus one person. He pretty much said, no, this guy's got to die and the city's got to live. That's how he always sees things. He sees things as a bigger whole. He doesn't go to the singular. There's only a few times he's ever went to the singular. That one person can make a difference. There's only a few times he's ever done that. Other times he sees Gotham as the whole. He will never allow Gotham to fall over one person. And he always believes in redemption. That's why he leaves it. That's why he always throws the Joker back into Arkham Asylum. He believes in the redemption. Sorry, he does. All right, now I rambled. Sorry. So, okay, so this is my list of who's better at Batman, Bale or Affleck. And again, I'm not knocking Christian Bale. There are a few points that I didn't like about what he's doing, and there's also a few in Affleck, but that's only because we only got a half of his story. That's it. I mean, that's all I can say about that. We only got half of his story, and even if when the Snyder Cut does come out, and we're all able to see his beginning and his middle and the end, then that's it. We're not going to get any more of his Batman. That means his story is told and it's done. So, in all retrospect, we need to take what we got from what Affleck accomplished and what Zack Snyder was writing and Chris Terrio was trying to build. I'm sorry, what Zack Snyder was building versus what Chris Terrio wrote. And use that as, okay, what were they trying to say with this version of Ben Affleck's Batman? So, first thing is his suit. How did it feel? How did both Bale and Affleck's bat suits feel? Bale's suit was more tactically oriented. It was made to basically fit his body. It was made to actually, for him to have that functionality for his fighting style, which I'll get into. His suit was multi-layered. They made it more technologically advanced. So he can actually take more shots. And I mean physical shots, gun shots, blows against cars, falling from certain heights and such like that. It was able for him to be able to get that impact and walk away. he will feel it, but it won't be as much as it would be if he didn't have that extra layers of plating and everything else. So the feel of of Bale's Batman was to basically keep it grounded. So basically, this dude doesn't get killed by falling out of a window, which that's exactly what happened. He jumped after Rachel after Joker let her go, which was a bad choice of words anyway. And he jumped after her, jumped down to the ground, and smashed right into a car. And he got up. He was like, "Okay, you okay?" She's like, "Yeah." He saved her life. If it wasn't for that suit taking the brunt of it, he would have died. She would have died. The impact would have killed both of them. But that suit was able to absorb a lot of it. And the cape was able to do like a parachute action. So when they were flipping and flopping around, the cape was actually doing the drag to keep the descent from them to hit terminal velocity. That's pretty much what it was doing. So as a feel, Bale's suit was very, very tactically oriented, so he could be able to continuously do it for a long period of time. However, Affleck's suit was basically it. It was a suit. And that should frighten you a little bit because there was no plating. There was nothing on him. That was just a very tight suit onto his body, and he was moving that fast. He took the brunt of it like it was nothing. He did everything. That was all him. That was all Bruce. So everything that Bruce was doing throughout that movie up until the point where he was wearing the armored suit, that was all him. All him. The warehouse scene, he was getting shot at and he was using his hand to guide the bullets away. His cowl was actually plated, so if he gets hit with a knife, it goes right off the armor. If he gets hit in the head with anything, it won't knock him cold. That's very ingenious. We didn't see that we saw that in Bale's version in Batman Begins, where they were trying to make the cowl and they were using plate. That's why his head couldn't move, because they were using like almost like a clay plate that had armor plating. So if things hit him, it wouldn't crack his head like almost like a walnut. He could be able to keep going. Now, here when it comes to feel, I have to give it to Affleck, because the feel of his suit feels like a suit. It feels like it was all him. It was his own skill, his own determination, his own ability that said, nope, you guys are not going to get through me. It's insane. Bale's was awesome. However, it felt like literally like it was made to keep him extraordinarily safe, which makes sense because it's a grounded based movie. Now, when it comes to style, I have to get up for Bale's. I do. Bale's was actually very cool looking. It had the multi-layered. It had the very multi-layered. It actually had the ability for him to take a knife shot, take a blow shot, but it's almost like a tie. But I give it up for Bale's a little bit more because it actually does, and he had the neck ability, and he didn't have to worry about it. Now, I forgot the guy's name. Let me pull his name up again. Oh man. I'll pull his name up. I'm sorry, guys. Nerdy in Many Ways. Nerdy in Many Ways made a statement that that Ben Affleck's cowl was all one piece. No, it's not one piece. It's two pieces. And I could prove if you go back to BVS when right after Superman ripped the doors off and he told him, hey, and the whole can you bleed story, the whole can you bleed scene. If you look at it, what happened is that he got to the Batcave and took off the cowl and walked up, and he still had the cape on. So it was a two piece. The thing is that the suit, his neck was able to move only to a certain degree. So if he was standing like this, his head could turn this way. But he was still able to see out of his peripheral view very easily. But he had to turn his head, he had to turn his torso just a little bit to see where he needs to see at. And that was proven in the warehouse scene when the guy bust down the door and opened up the grenade. He turned his complete head and went, oh, hell no, and did that kick. And, we all know that scene. Go look at the scene. The cowl actually is able for him to turn his head pretty dang well, but it's so bulky on him because he's so bulky that he can't turn his head like he's supposed to. He can't do that. but Bale's can because he's more lean. So he could turn his head like the way he wants to with well ease, and that's no problem. So I give the style to Bale. I give it to Bale. I put it down. I give the style to Bale, but functionality, yes, I still give it to Affleck. The functionalness of it is a lot better than the style, only because Affleck's suit was designed by him to show that he doesn't need the armor. He doesn't need the bulletproofness. He cannot get hit. They were shooting at him. They could have shot him in the chest. It didn't do nothing. The dude was able to do this. That means the cape is able to take the bullets. The suit can't take the bullets. It's tight. It's skin tight to his body. He had to run up and get the guns out of their hands because he knew that if they shot him clean, then he'd have died. And also, he took a knife right there. So his suit is not armor plated. It's all him. He took all those guys on because he did not need a suit. Now, we don't know what the tactical suit would have done, mainly because we didn't see. He also, here's a great thing, and I hate to use the movie, but in Justice League, when he took on the Parademons, they could have ripped his suit up completely apart, but they couldn't. Not because it was armored, it's because this dude refused to allow them to rip it apart. He could have built himself a better suit to take on Parademons. He took on a regular suit. Even when they went down into the sewers to save Salias, to save Salias Stone and all the people, he still he was taking them on in a regular suit. That should tell you something. Ben Affleck's suit is way more functional because he's able to use his own skill. He doesn't have any armor weighing him down just a little bit. He doesn't have that plating having to mess with his functionality. That's all I see. So I give it up for Affleck. So when it comes down to suits, Affleck beats Bale just by a little bit. But the feel and the functionality of that suit outweighs the style. It does. It outweighs the style in my personal opinion because the feel of the suit feels very comic book accurate. It feels like this suit was his suit throughout his whole time as Batman. This was his suit throughout his whole time as Batman. He didn't make any other suits. We didn't see any other suits in the Batcave. All we saw was not his suit, but we saw the Robin suit, but we didn't see another set of Batman suits. It was just that one. And that should tell you that's been his suit his whole time for the past 20 years. And that's scary because he's that good. He doesn't need an armor plating and all that stuff. But in Justice League, for some reason, he needed one. Why? That made no sense. It made no sense. If somebody says, well, it's Batman, they need to explain it. That's the whole point of, you got to give a logical reasoning for Batman to want to create a brand new suit. That's why no one had a problem with Tony just with a suit out of nowhere, because we always expected him to have a new suit because he always makes a new suit. But this version of Batman we saw in BVS, he only had one suit. He never had multiple suits. He had one suit, except the armor suit, but he doesn't need that anymore. Why the heck would he need to build another one? That makes no sense. Okay. Fighting style. Now, this is one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes down to the Ben Affleck and Christian Bale debates. People said that Christian Bale is more comic book accurate. And I go, no, it's not. Batman doesn't use elbows. He doesn't come in and do this. He doesn't, I've never seen Batman ever in a comic. I've seen him do it a few times, but I've never seen him in a room full of men start doing stuff like this. I've never seen him do stuff like that ever. Batman, what we saw in the warehouse scene, that's what Batman does. That's exactly what Batman does. He goes in, uses gadgets, get all the weapons out of their hands, and just comes and starts tossing dudes left and right. And he punches them. He hits them. He backhands them. He hits them in the gut. He throws them all over the place. He makes it look like that dude. This guy fights like an army. He fights like an army to himself. It's scary. Christian Bale's version looks very weird, and when, like I said, when it comes to accuracy, it is Ben Affleck's version. I'm sorry, Ben Affleck looks way more defined. When it comes down to it, he looks more polished. He looks like he's more brutal. I'll get down to the other stuff, but it just looks like he has way better about who he is than anything else. And here's the second thing. Ben Affleck doesn't pant. His version of Batman didn't pant. He barely panted. This man took out a room full of highly trained mercenaries. Highly trained mercenaries. They had knives, Glocks, automatic rifles, grenades, and a lot of them were fighters. And he took them all out. He got stabbed, and all you heard him do was. He was barely panting. Go back and watch the Dark Knight. I'm sorry, not the Dark Knight. Watch Batman Begins. Watch Batman Begins. He took on Raish's personal guards. Personal guards. Defeated every one of them. I'm not saying he got his butt kicked. He defeated every one of them. The dude was going, we gotta stop him. I'm like, well, what? This dude is panting like it's like he went through 50 rounds. Are you what? Again, it's a grounded based story, so it makes sense that he's not gonna have this insane levels of his stamina. So when it comes down to comic accuracy, and you've seen it in the comics, Batman barely pants. The only time you see this man pant is unless he's going through a hard fight. And he got a lot of licks in. And the other people did too. But we didn't see that in Christian Bale's version. He took them all out like it was effortlessly. He went through them like it wasn't like they weren't even there. And he was panting. He was going. He took on freaking Bane's men. I'm like, what? Wow, dude. So honestly, accuracy goes to Mr. Affleck. Power. Christian Bale's version was just doing elbows and strikes and everything else. We were seeing Ben Affleck tossing dudes left and right. He did a rock bottom. He jumped over a crate, grabbed the dude, smashed him into the ground, grabbed the crate with his grappling hook as he landed, and threw the crate at a dude as he was standing there trying to shoot him, and got his head knocked in and smashed into the wall. And then on top of it, he haymakered a dude to the point where his head, he inverted onto the ground. That's power. That's power. He hit a dude so hard, you saw the spit and the sweat fly off his body. He got stabbed in the arm and still picked the guy up and threw him through a wall, dude. And then he smashed through the wall, grabbed the... Power goes to Ben Affleck. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. If you think I'm knocking on Christian Bale's version, here's two things you need to really think about. One, Affleck was in his 40s. Bruce Wayne in BVS was in his 40s. He was in his 40s. Christian Bale's version was in his mid to late 20s. And 20-year difference in Gotham versus 8 years, and then we catch him up and he's in his late 30s. And he has gray hair, his body's all messed up from all the injuries, which makes sense. It makes sense. He never truly took care of himself because he didn't want to go to the hospital. He took care of himself through Alfred and maybe some personal doctors that basically he can get away with by saying, oh yeah, it was an injury, and he worked it out. But Ben Affleck's version was fit and firm. 20 years in Gotham, fighting against all those criminals. Never racked up a level of injuries that way. Wow. That is insane. And he was still able to overpower a room full of highly trained men close to half his age. He overpowered them. He made them look stupid out there. That's insane. That is insane. Think about that. He's 20 years fighting against these criminals. We had 8 years with him in his city. He took a gunshot. Took a gunshot in the hip. That's why he couldn't walk. He took a gunshot in the hip. They got the bullet out. The bullet was still in there. He left the bullet in there. That's a consistent reminder. They took the bullet out, and he had to walk with a cane for the rest of his. He had to walk with a cane. He had to get robotics to actually make his hip move the way he wants to. Again, go watch the movies. Again, it's grounded based. I understand. But if you look at it, Ben Affleck's version was insane shape, and he was still able to do what he needed to do. Sorry. Skill. It's close because you got a highly trained Bale version who was trained by the League of Assassins. Now, here's the thing and again, trained by the League of Assassins and what he picked up in China. We don't know anything about Ben Affleck's version. We don't. We don't know where he trained. We don't know who trained him. We know nothing. People can stipulate all day. All day. They can sit there and say, "Oh, he got trained by the League of Assassins." How would you know? Where was that? No one knows anything about his Batman. No one knows. But he's highly trained. He cleared a room full of highly trained mercs. And he did it with a rubber suit on. I mean, come on, dude. That's insane skill. I'm not putting down Bale's version. It's very close. It's very close. However, I give it a good clear to Ben Affleck's version. His skill was insane at his age. Age makes a difference. Age slows down. It was the biggest thing about what they were talking about in the Justice League. They were saying he's getting old. And he's kind of going, yeah, I don't know if I can do this any longer. Are you kidding me? Skill, Affleck. Techniques. Very close. I give it to Bale though. He has a wide variety. He was using elbows, knees, headbutts. He was grabbing people, doing this. He actually wrapped the dude up and used the ropes to slide him across the ground and lift him in the air. He was doing a lot of good techniques with his gadgets, with his skill. He was utilizing the area around him, the fear. His techniques was more wide than Affleck's was. But we saw that we saw the thing with Affleck was he came in at the bottom in the warehouse. I'm using the warehouse scene as our basis because that's the only true fight sequence we got that was purely Batman that we've ever seen. He came in at the bottom. He was told there's a dozen or more men up above him. So he said, okay, I'm going to come at the bottom. They're thinking he's going to come through the door. He puts up a major implosion bomb. And he basically imploded the ground and made everyone go, ah! And the moment they were doing this, he got up into the rafters. And then as he was going up, he was shooting out. He threw up a pulse to smash on every gun that he saw. And they were going, one guy went, huh? And then you see him up in the rafters going, blip, blip, and all he saw was explosions. And he's went, guys were like, what the, he grabbed one guy, that move, what he did was Batman. They were all just looking down, shooting down, thinking he was on the ground, and they didn't realize the dude was upwards. They didn't realize he was above them. But when it came down to what Christian Bale was doing, he did everything Batman worthy. When it came down to utilizing what he knows, his techniques were insane. I'll give it up for Bale. Bale did a really good job. Okay, so and when it came down to his fighting, he was utilizing all of his skill to go get everyone out of his way and get to where he needs to. Only problem is that he panted like he went through 50 rounds. Like he was like, I'm like, what the hell, bro? Get on a cardio. I mean, come on. Get on the cardio. Get some air in those lungs, dude. You should not be panting this hard. It's like he doesn't understand how to hit hard. Like hit. It's weird. It's really weird. That's what throws me off. It's like, dude, you should be pretty worldly when it comes to fighting. It's like he just knows how to brawl. That was the thing. He knew how to brawl. Ben Affleck's version knew how to fight. He knew how to take somebody out. Bale knew how to brawl, and in brawlers get panted very easily. They swing for the fences, but they lose energy like that, and that was the problem. Okay, so let's move on. I when it comes down to fighting style, it's Affleck to me. It is Affleck. Affleck is just way better. His skills, his power, the accuracy of what he can do is a lot better than what Christian Bale's wide variety of techniques he was doing with everything. He was doing a wide variety of everything. Now, gadgets. He was right. We had more gadgets when it came down to Christian Bale's version because he had 3 movies utilizing a whole bunch of gadgets. But I broke it down to two little subcategories: functionality and effectiveness. Now it makes sense. Functional. I'm sorry, I have to get up for Bale on this. Affleck was phenomenal. He was phenomenal with his gadgets. He knew how to take up the room. He knew it's like, dude, I gotta get these guns out of these guys' hands, get them freaking scared, toss them all over the place. He used his batarang, threw the batarang into a guy's chest, used the grappling hook, grabbed the other dude, and smashed him into another guy, knocked him back into the hole. The other guy was sitting there dangling above the ground. Dude, he took out the room like it was like he tactically took out that room. He knew how to take out that room quick. Okay, but when it came down to gadgets, Bale just had him beat because he had way more gadgets. He had the ability to use more gadgets and time to use these gadgets. He had an EMP gun. He had the freaking grappling hooks. He had the batarangs, which were sharper and they were able to penetrate into the skin instead of a blunt object. And he's just thrown it really hard at them, and it just pierced right into their skin, and it hurt because it's blunt. It's not sharp. It's blunt. It hurts. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, functionality, Bale. Effectiveness, Bale. Bale just had a much better wide variety of gadgets. So when it came down to gadgets, Bale beats him. And I hate to say that, but again, this is more due to the fact is we didn't get much of Batman. We didn't get much of his Batman when it came down to gadgets, what he could do with them, except one scene. One scene. And then on top of that, even in Justice League, if you want to use Justice League, he barely used gadgets. He barely used it. He was just using what he knows, and he was just basically he was the odd man out because he didn't have superpowers. So I'm like, wait a minute, then have him use gadgets. Well, I don't think they're as cool as superpowers. Are you kidding me? It's Batman. Now here's the big thing: the voice, functionalness, and effectiveness. Okay, the Christian Bale voice. Where are the drugs? I just, again, that's his Aussie accent, and he had to try to do something a little bit different, and it makes sense. Nobody's gonna try to have a voice synthesizer around their neck, and try to make it a voice synthesizer. But I mean, if you really think about it, that should have been something he should have thought of. So it would have put less on his throat. I mean, that would have been something he would have thought of. But again, so when it came down to functionality, we have a voice synthesizer versus a natural voice. And it was just horrible. It was just horrible. A good amount of people still knock it to this day, saying, "Oh my God, sounds like he needs some Certs lozenges, man. He needs some, like he's been smoking for 30 years, and now he's starting to talk." It's like, come on, bro. So I have to give the functionality to Affleck. It was very functional. It made sense. It actually makes it so if someone tries to analyze his voice, all they're gonna get is jarbles. They can't be able to isolate out the voice because it's synthesized. You won't know who the heck it is. That could be a woman's voice for all you know. I mean, what the hell? He could have a squeaky voice. He could have a Mike Tyson voice for all they know. They don't know. It's hard to figure it out. I give it for Affleck. But effectiveness. The effectiveness of one thing is, was it putting fear into these criminals? And yeah, I'll get it for Bale. It actually did. It put a lot of fear into a lot of those criminals because they have this tall, dark guy in a bat suit, and he's speaking like, "Where are the drugs?" You're like, "Whoa, bro!" Like, whoa! And he gradually starts tossing around, goes, "Where is he? Oh my God, dude, stop!" Like, okay. To me, it's much more effective. So in a way, Bale beats Affleck because it was Affleck's actions that were dictating the fear. It wasn't the voice. The voice plus what Bale was doing was way more effective for what he was doing. The voice actually helped. So I give it up for Bale as effectiveness. So when it comes down to voice, they're kind of in a tie, but I still give it up for Affleck because the functionalness gives it much more precedent because we got to see how the criminals were acting when they were hearing his voice. That was the thing. We got to hear him go, "Where's the white Portugal?" Like we don't know how the voice is going to interact with these people. So we had to see more of it. Here's the big thing for me. This is the biggest thing for me. The portrayal. the portrayal of the character. And people can give it up and say that Bale was the best Bruce Wayne. I would say he's the best origin of Bruce Wayne, but he's not the best Bruce Wayne, because his Bruce Wayne. Okay, here's the history of Bruce Wayne that we know in the Dark Knight trilogy versus what Zack Snyder was doing. In the Dark Knight trilogy, Bruce was mainly, he basically placed the blame of his parents' death on him. He became afraid. He made his parents leave the theater early, which got them mugged in Crime Alley. In Park Row. So he placed all the blame on him. He placed all that blame on him for years. And what Ra's al Ghul told him. Now, nerdy in many ways, I think his name is. Sorry. Yeah, nerdy in many ways. I forgot his name. I'm very sorry. And if he watches this, I'm very sorry, man. I got to get your name, and I'll put you down on a list of other people that I've met and talked about, in a positive way, of course, positive way. But his Bruce Wayne was built on the basis that he blames himself for his parents' death. And also, he placed, because of his father's prestige of being part of Wayne Enterprises and the built of Wayne Enterprises, he placed himself as he's the only one that could save this city. Now, that's the history. That is the history of that version of Bruce Wayne. Ben Affleck's version was much different. It was way more comic accurate. He didn't leave the theater scared. He left the theater because it was over and he was gonna go home with his parents. His parents gets robbed, gets killed, and all he remembers is that his father and mother were dead because of a senseless crime, and his parents were dying in the gutter. No one can able to save them. That's his own words. So his memory, the one thing that basically defined him as an individual, not as Batman, as an individual, was the fact that his parents died in a senseless crime that did not need to happen, and no one helped him. And if someone helped him, they could have saved his dad. But his father was trying to protect his son and his wife and to take out the criminal. That's different than what we saw in The Dark Knight. In The Dark Knight, he was going to give him the money. Say, hey, here, take the money. And when the wallet fell, he was like, whoa. It's okay. He's about to pick it up, and he's like, the pearls. Hey, whoa, and boom. That's much different. Go watch Dark Knight. Go watch The Batman Begins. That's what happened. His dad dropped the wallet. He was going to give it to Joe Chill, but he said, hey, whoa. Everything's cool. He's going to say, I'll get it. And then he says, the pearls too. Hey, no, don't do that. Boom. That's exactly what happened. But in Snyder's version, it was more in the fact of his dad was going to put his family behind him and he was going to go for it. We've never seen that in any version of Batman. His dad always basically was going to give him the money and let him go away. And the pearls, he said, nope. When his father was down, he said he was going to pull up the pearls with the gun and shot her in the throat. Because you saw her doing this, and Lauren had a lot of fear in her eyes. That means the gun was right here. And it went click, boom, and basically blew in her throat. Because she didn't move. She was just going. And the way Zack Snyder did the scene is they put on her eyeball. So you see, from Bruce's perspective, he's watching his mother slowly die because her eyes were dilating out. Her pupils were dilating. Her pupils were going out like she's dead. And the only thing he saw his dad do was reaching over saying Martha, and he was dying. And like he said, they were dying in a gutter. No one helped him. So he watched his parents die in front of him. It wasn't instant. His mother, in the Batman Begins, his mother died instantly. His mother was dead. His father slowly ebbed himself towards death and said that, no, don't be afraid. Everything will be okay. And he died. But his whole life was defined because of his parents' death, while Ben Affleck's was defined over the fact that his parents died in a senseless crime that did not need to happen. Bale's version was built on the fact that organized crime killed his family, while Ben Affleck's version was built on the fact that it was a senseless crime that did not need to happen. This guy did not have to do this at all, but he did it anyway. And that was his defense. Now, the one thing that they got wrong, and this is the thing that really drove me when it came down to about what they did in the Dark Knight trilogy. The Bale's Bruce Wayne was dumb. He went to Princeton. He knows the law. He understands law. He went to Princeton. Either you get a medical degree or a law degree. That's pretty much what you go to Princeton for. A medical degree or a law degree. There's nothing else. Criminal justice, basically. So that means he understands the law. He understands it. Rachel went to another school, but she got herself a criminal justice degree. That's what we got from that. So, sorry, it's getting kind of warm. But Bale's Bruce Wayne was dumb. Let's get that through. Let's get that through our heads. He was stupid. Because one, when he went down and confronted Carmine Falcone about that, he's gonna pay for killing his family. He's sitting there going, "Are you kidding me? You got to go 1,000 miles to have someone not recognize who you are." So he went, okay. That was the smart thing he did. He left, but he was already 22 years old. He was young. He was young. And then he left, and he was gone for six or 7 years. So he came back around the age of 28, 29. So he's already about to hit his 30s. But the thing is, he learned about organized crime. He went around into Europe and China and Japan to learn about organized crime. He didn't learn about the criminal element. He learned about organized crime. How those criminals think. So when the Joker showed up, it threw a massive wrench in him. He was like, "What the heck am I dealing with?" Because he wasn't ready for it. He wasn't ready. He didn't learn psychology. He just said, "Nope, I know how organized crime works." Joker wasn't thinking like organized crime. He was organized chaos. He was creating chaos, but it was organized to the point where people were like, "Dude, this is just random destruction." No, it's not. It's all part of his plan. It just looks disorganized, but it's organized. It's massively organized. And Bale's Bruce Wayne, his Batman was not ready for it, which gets down to Batman. But Ben Affleck's version, he had 20 years in Gotham. He understood what was going on in Gotham. He understood what was going on. This is a 20-year vet. That means he has a lot of experience. He understands the criminal mind. He knows what type of criminals he's dealing with. He knows that Anatoly Knyaziev is a military trained professional killer. He knows this. He's not stupid. 2, he understood what he was dealing with Superman. He just had to figure out a way to deal with it. The only part that made him dumb was the fact that he was so blinded by his anger, he wasn't thinking of the bigger picture. And that's what Alfred was. Alfred was his original thinking process, thinking of the bigger picture. That's why he was telling him, like, "Hey, wait a minute, Superman's not a threat." He's like, "Yes, he is. If there's a 1% chance that we can take him as a threat, there's an absolute certainty. We got to take it as an absolute certainty. And we got to get rid of him." He's like, "You're going to go to war with this man. You don't even know who he is. You don't know what he stands for." He goes, "It doesn't matter." He sees him as a criminal. while Superman is seeing him as a criminal. He's stamping on people's civil liberties. He's making the people of his own city afraid of him, and other people regard him as a hero. But again, that's the whole thing with Superman. That's the whole thing about Superman. So Bruce Wayne, when it comes down to did they do the right portrayal of Bruce Wayne, I get up for Affleck because his version of Bruce Wayne was so worldly. He understood a lot of things, but he was limited only on the fact that he doesn't understand the supernatural. He doesn't understand he doesn't understand about the about alien stuff. He's learning, but he's learning. Bale's version only learned one thing: organized crime. He didn't understand the psychology of the criminal mind. That would get him more prepared. He was never prepared for someone like the Joker. That's why the Joker defeated him. Joker won in that movie. He won. He beat Batman. You can sit there and say, no, Batman beat him. No, he didn't. He defeated him, but he didn't beat him. He didn't beat him. At the end of the day, did he stop being Batman? Yes, that means the Joker won. The Joker wanted to get Batman out of the way. And he left a lot of damage that Batman had to clean up. But he hid it instead of cleaning it up and exposing Harvey Dent and saying, you know what, screw this. Harvey Dent went nuts. It was all because of the Joker. Because of what the Joker did. He didn't even defend that. He just said, nope, the Joker did it. He did nothing. He could have just, Harvey Dent's legacy could have still been salvaged over the fact that he got injured by the Joker. The Joker got to him. The Joker broke him and made him feel like that he lost everything because of us. Think about that. It broke his mind. It broke him. We can't fully blame Harvey Dent. The Joker was his mouthpiece. But they didn't do that. They hid all that stuff, and that's why in the Dark Knight Rises, Bane was able to expose it all and destroy everything that they did. He made everyone believe that Batman and Commissioner Gordon committed fraud. And they did, because they didn't tell the truth. They should have told the truth. So I'm sorry. I think that Ben Affleck had a much better portrayal of Bruce Wayne because we understood where his Bruce Wayne was at. We understood everything where his Bruce Wayne was at. Bale's version was so muddled because he didn't have a full understanding of where he was what he was truly doing as Bruce Wayne. He was confused. He was massively confused. In my personal opinion, he was massively confused. And that's what messes up his version of Batman, in my personal opinion. Because it was Bruce Wayne, not Batman. In Affleck's version, it was Batman, not Bruce Wayne. Here's the thing. Everyone needs to remember this. It is a comic book fact. Fact. Superman's secret identity is Clark Kent. Kal-El of Krypton's secret identity is Clark Kent. Clark Kent is him. He is Clark Kent. Wonder Woman's secret identity is Diana Prince. The Princess of Themyscira, Diana Prince's secret identity is the Princess of Themyscira. Arthur Curry is Aquaman. But Batman is Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the face. Bruce Wayne is the mask. And they did it much perfectly in the version of Snyder's version, because he understood that. Bale's version was more of the latter. It was more of the flip, vice versa. They were saying that Batman is the mask for Bruce Wayne. But they said it right in the last portion of the Batman Begins, but they kind of flip-flopped on it. That Rachel told him when she held his face, she said, no, this is the mask. The real you is the one that the criminals see. The person that she remembers died in that alley with his parents. This is the person that it is now. That's what that's what she said. Sorry. But they flip-flopped on it. They made it where he wanted to be more Bruce Wayne than Batman. And that, to me, destroys the whole credibility of Batman. And I'm going to add this whole thing about the portrayal of Batman. It's been Affleck. Affleck did a much better job because he understood that Bruce Wayne hates being Batman a lot of times. He wants to have a life. He wants to have something outside of being Batman. But the thing is that because of what was going on, You also got to realize that Batman is him. He is Batman. He wants to not be himself. He wants to be Bruce Wayne. He wants to be Bruce Wayne. But because of Batman v Superman, Bruce Wayne wants to be Batman because he knows it's the only way for him to feel whole again. But he perverted it. So the portrayal, it's down to Affleck. Affleck did a much better job on both counts. Now the history. Again, this is one of those things we don't have very much history, but we can kind of piece it together. The history of Gotham, the history of the mission, and I mean the Crusade. It's Affleck. It's Affleck. I'm sorry. It's going to be Affleck. His history in Gotham is a lot more stable than it is in Nolan's universe, in Nolan's trilogy. Because in Nolan's trilogy, he was getting the cops okay with him around, and now at the point where the Joker, he now has become an outlaw again. While in Snyder's version, he's always been good with the cops, but they know that they don't cross Batman, but they haven't seen him in a few years. He stopped being Batman, but they still see him as a hero. He's done a lot for the city. But because of him coming back and he's branding these criminals, throwing them in jail, and all of a sudden they're ending up dead, they're going, what the heck is going on here? But they're blaming it all on Superman. While if you read the Dark Knight Rises book, that was the whole thing of debate, that Batman is back. What the heck is this going to happen now? What are the people of Gotham City have to live in fear because of Batman? They're more afraid of Batman, and that's why the history makes a lot more sense. Should make sense of what's going on in Gotham. The cop, when you first get introduced to his Batman, the cop even straight up says that he's like, hey, there's guys up there. He goes, dude, where you going? Dude, he knows that Batman's up there. He's like, dude, leave it alone. He's like, dude, let him do his thing and get out of here. He doesn't want to deal with him. He was just shocked over the fact is that he branded this poor schmuck. He branded him. Okay, so the history, I have to give it up for the history of Gotham. I have to give it up for Affleck. His history in Gotham is a lot more stable than it was in Bale's version, because in Bale's version he was flip-floppy with the cops, very flip-floppy with the cops. There was only a few cops that knew that dude he's just there, he's there to help. But after the whole thing with Harvey Dent, the cops were gonna kill him. They were like, whatever, dude, kill him, because he's an outlaw. But in Snyder's version, even though he's a few years of not being Batman, everybody still has levels of respect for him. The people of Gotham were not that scared of him. They straight up said to even the Clark Kent, dude, the only reason you have something to be afraid of him is unless you did something. Good people are not going to get messed with him. He's not going to go after good people. He'll leave the good people alone. He's going to go after dirtbags. That's all he's going to do. He's not going to bother us. We're good people. Which kind of threw Superman off for a little bit. Like, hey, wait a minute. But these people are still getting their civil rights, their civil liberties trampled. They still have rights. That was his whole point. So history, Affleck. The mission, it was Affleck. Well, I would say, yeah, it's a tie. That one's a tie because Affleck gave up. After the death of Robin and his confrontation with the Joker, him smashing Joker's teeth in, that's why he wears grills, because he lost his teeth because of Batman. Batman punched his mouth so hard he broke his teeth, which pissed Joker off because he thought he was gonna kill him. He's like, oh, dude, what the hell? We don't know nothing about this version of Batman and Joker. We don't know the relationship. We don't know if it's more of an adversarial relationship, or we don't know if it's more that animosity relationship, the relationship that we know of from the comics. We can only speculate. But the mission, we just don't know. We don't know. But I still give it up. So I'm gonna say it's a tie, and I say it's a tie only on the reason because we don't know Ben Affleck. We know that he quit after a while. He quit after 20 years because of the death of Robin. We know what happened in the Nolan trilogy. He quit because he felt it was just it's not worth it anymore. He was tired of losing. He because of the loss of Rachel. But we also know that the mission for him was getting more. I'm sorry, for Affleck's version, was getting more and more weighing on him because he says 20 years in Gotham. How many people stayed good? How many people stayed good and how many stayed that way? How many people we lost? We lost a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of good people. What happened? So I give it up for that. I'm saying right off the bat, it's gonna be a tie on it. So both of them quit over very messed up reasons, but it makes sense. But for him having 2 years on the job being Batman makes absolutely no sense. He quit after 2 years. Ben Affleck quit after 20. He's like, I'm good. I'm tired, and it makes sense. But I still give the mission more towards a tie because, again, we don't know the circumstances of it. We can only get from his word, and I kind of want a little bit more. Like what happened with Harvey Dent? What happened with the Penguin? What happened with the Joker? What happened to his rogues? Were some of them friends and he just lost them? Did the war against the Joker mounted so far in the city? Did it just start wrecking everything in the city, making it worse and worse and worse? Did he lose a lot more than what we know? That's what we don't know. Now villains. I hate to say this, it's Bale. It's Bale. His villains, we know a lot about his villains. We know about Scarecrow. We know about Bane. We know about the Joker, of course. We know about Ra's al Ghul. We also know about Carmine Falcone, Sal Maroni, and we also know about Talia al Ghul. That's 7 villains. 7. You go, what? I say, okay. Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul and Carmine Falcone were his 3 main enemies in Batman Begins. Dark Knight, it was Sal Maroni and the Joker. Batman and Dark Knight Rises, it was Bane. Oh, and Catwoman. So eight villains basically. Bane, Catwoman, Talia al Ghul, and Scarecrow basically. Scarecrow was on it for a little bit, a very small portion. Oh, and Rupert Thorne. So that's 9. Rupert Thorne is a Batman villain. So that's 5 villains in one movie basically. 2 of them are in there for a little bit, and they both get one of them gets whacked, and the other one just basically there as a judge, jury, executioner type, which makes no sense. It would have made a lot of sense if they basically kept Harvey Dent alive, had Harvey Dent up there, had Aaron Eckhart up there. That'd have made a whole god, that'd have been better. That scene would have been a whole lot better. He's the judge, jury, and executioner, and he flips his coin and figures it all out. Oh man, I think they should have did that instead. My personal opinion. But we got more villains in the trilogy than we did in Ben Affleck's, and it sucks. So I give it up for Bale. The longevity of his villains, Bale's, and the history of his villains is Bale because he's got a lot of history with his villains. Ra's al Ghul, that was his mentor. Talia al Ghul, that was a semi love interest. Catwoman was a more of a love semi love interest, but she basically tricked him. Bane was the main adversary. Joker was the main adversary. Ra's al Ghul was the main adversary. Rupert Thorne was just a thorn in the side, for no pun intended. No pun intended, basically. Scarecrow was a main adversary. Carmine Falcone was a semi-adversary. Sal Maroni was just a footnote. I mean, there were Batman villains in there. Some of them were not there for what they were supposed to, but they were just there to continue the plot point. But there was a lot of history there, and we should all remember that. But let's see. Okay, so we got suits, it's Affleck. Fighting style is Affleck. Gadgets is more Bale. The voice, it's semi a tie, but I'm gonna give it a little bit to Affleck. The portrayal was Affleck. History was basically a tie. Sorry. And the villains was Bale. Now again, I mean, let me see. 1, 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is more of an opinion. Again, it's a very, 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 very opinionated thing. It is a debatable, but I want everyone to realize that I still like Christian Bale's version. I do have some problems with it. The Dark Knight would have never been that way if Batman just went after the Joker. Said, hey, wait a minute, this guy showed up, take out the Joker. There's a lot of things we could debate about it. You can say it's grounded in reality all you want, but it doesn't matter. Just how the character was written in there, it just made no sense. But in the Affleck's version, we're just missing a lot of his history. That's it. Once we get his history down pat, dude, we're probably gonna be either amazed or we're gonna be like, oh, okay. I mean, that's we could find a meh for all we know, or it could be utter crap. We don't know. We have 1 out of 3 options here. Okay, there is no there. I mean, there's 1 out of 3 options. Either it's good, it's terrible, or it's meh. So it's in the middle. So we don't know. But from what we were given, I have a huge feeling his history is going to be phenomenal. He had 20 years in that city. He had a lot of villains. We don't know if he had his base villains. There was no. We know Killer Croc was in there. Killer Croc was in Suicide Squad. We don't know if he dealt with the Man Bat. We don't know if he had Mr. Freeze. We don't know if he had Clayface. We don't know any of that. We don't know if there was a Solomon Grundy. We don't know what the heck was going on in that city. So without a history, we're kind of just going off of what Affleck, but we're just giving more basis of why we like him. And the same thing is, I mean, the same thing for me. I'm giving up what I liked out of what he was doing, and I'm not putting down Bale. I think Bale did a great job. He is a great actor. But when it comes down to what I wanted out of Batman, I don't want a Batman that's going to be mediocre. Like, he's mediocre. He's running the mill. He's basic this and this. No. I want Batman to have some history. I want Batman to be phenomenal. And I want his story to make sense to who he is. He's looking forward to the Robert Pattinson version. I'm still on the fence. I don't like the suit very well. I think it doesn't make sense. Him taking the gun and making it into the symbol, to me, is kind of like, okay. I would have appreciated him having the gun on his, literally, where he has his desk. When he does on the back computer, he literally has the gun sitting right there. It's right there, and it's pointed at him. So every time he looks at it, it just reminds him. It's a constant reminder, that gun pointing right at his face, and he's about to get killed by Joe Chill. We don't know. I would love that for his version of Batman. That would be great. That shows a lot of psychopathy with that. That he has that gun pointed at him. And if Alfred turns it just a little away from him, he looks and turns it back at him. So it's always pointing at him. So he can always remember that gun is the gun that killed his mom and dad. It's pointed at him, not on his chest, but that's me. So I'm the winner is going to be Ben Affleck. I like Ben Affleck's version a whole lot better. It's way better comic book accurate. The suit is a lot better in my personal opinion. Just the feeling of functional. His fighting style is more vicious and cruel. It just rips right through people like a hot knife through butter. We just got a little bit more of his gadgets. His gadget ability is really good, but Bale's was a lot better. The voice made sense. It made sense. It made sense. I'm sorry, it does. His portrayal was a whole lot better for his Batman and his Bruce Wayne. There's a lot more history there that we were missing. But with Bale's version, there's not enough. We don't have enough of his history because basically he quit. He quit after 2 years of being Batman. He quit. And he quit for a total of 8 years. It was 8 years since he basically put on the suit and dealt with the Joker. So he lost a lot of his history, a lot of his power in that city. The history of his city. I mean, the history that he has in that city. It's a tie only because we grew with that city. We saw Gotham where it was to where it is at the end of his run as Batman, and he's faked his death. While with the history that Ben Affleck's version of Gotham has a lot more history, but we as an audience don't know anything about it. We're just getting bits and pieces of it, and that sucks because there's a lot there that we're missing. Also, the villains. Bale has a better repertoire of villains. If we had him if we had his trilogy, I guarantee you Ben Affleck's version would blow everything what Christopher Nolan did out of the water. It would blow it all out of the water. It'd be done. It'd be completely done. No one would actually have this conversation. Well, is Ben Affleck's version better than Bale's? Everybody like, no, Ben Affleck's version is way better. His story is a whole lot better. We just don't get it. We just didn't get it, and we're not going to. So it sucks. So I'm sorry if it's kind of disappointing you guys. You guys are wondering what's going on here. But I'm telling you, Ben Affleck's version to me is a whole lot better. That's my opinion. And I hope you guys can understand that. So like I said, like, comment, share, subscribe down below, hit the bell, and tell me what you guys think. Please keep the questions to a minimum. Because I'm still going through a lot of other stuff right now, and I got to do a whole bunch of things on Saturday, so I'm most likely not going to be doing any videos on Saturday. I got to do a lot of pickups, go get some groceries and everything else, and get myself prepared, and then get my apartment nice and cleaned up. And then I got to get my desk here cleaned up. I got to figure a lot of new stuff out. I got to clean up everywhere. So it's getting dirty in here, so it is what it is. Thank you for joining me. You guys have a great one. Bye.